The world feels normal today. But it wasn't always this way. Somewhere on this planet, something once moved, breathed, watched. It followed the flow of an ancient river. It learned its currents. It listened to the water. Now, it doesn't. This is the story of the Baiji dolphin. An animal that survived ice ages, natural predators, and violent river floods. But did not survive humanity. By the time we noticed the silence, the river had already forgotten its voice. No final scream. No dramatic collapse. Just absence. Stay with me. Because this extinction was not an accident. The goddess of a dying river. The Baiji dolphin, scientifically named Lipotes vexillifer, was not merely an animal. It was a freshwater cetacean. One of the rarest evolutionary paths mammals have ever taken. While most dolphins return to the ocean, the Baiji chose a different destiny. It stayed. It adapted. It committed its entire existence to a single river, the Yangtze. This made the Baiji one of only 4 known freshwater dolphin species ever discovered on Earth. And now, it is the only one that is gone. The Baiji belonged to the group mammal, meaning it breathed air, gave live birth, and nursed its young. But unlike ocean dolphins, its world was brown, shallow, loud, and unpredictable. The Yangtze River, often called the cradle of Chinese civilization, was never gentle. Seasonal floods reshaped its banks. Silt clouds erased visibility. Currents shifted violently. And yet, for millions of years, the Baiji survived here. Physically, it looked almost unreal. Its body was pale bluish-gray, sometimes appearing nearly white in sunlight. Its long, narrow beak curved slightly upward, earning it the nickname, the smiling dolphin. But that smile was deceptive. Its eyes were tiny, barely functional. In the Yangtze's muddy waters, vision was useless. So evolution made a trade. The Baiji gave up sight and perfected sound. Its skull was uniquely shaped to amplify echolocation. Its forehead, called a melon, was softer and more pronounced, allowing it to send and receive sonar with extreme precision. Adults reached lengths of 2.3 to 2.6 meters, roughly the size of a large motorcycle. They weighed up to 230 kilograms. Not massive, not fast, just vulnerable. The Baiji was first formally described by Western science in 1918, after a specimen was recovered and studied. But to the people of China, this animal was ancient. For over 2,000 years, the Baiji appeared in poetry, folklore, and river legends. One story told of a young girl thrown into the Yangtze by her stepfather. The river gods transformed her into a dolphin. To protect her from cruelty, she became the Baiji, the goddess of the Yangtze. Ironically, the same species that worshipped it would later erase it. Even when science finally noticed the Baiji, its decline had already begun. A gentle intelligence in a brutal world. In daily life, the Baiji dolphin was not dramatic. It did not leap wildly from the water. It did not race ships. It moved slowly, surfacing quietly, often unnoticed. Most Baiji were solitary, or lived in pairs or very small family groups. Rarely more than 3. This was not a social dolphin like the bottlenose. It didn't need crowds. The river was narrow. Food was scattered. Space was limited. Every movement mattered. The Baiji fed mainly on freshwater fish, carp, catfish, gobies, and small schooling species. But it didn't chase prey. It listened. Using a constant stream of echolocation clicks, the Baiji painted an audio image of the riverbed. Every stone, every ripple, every living thing. Its hunting style relied on intelligence and precision, not speed. When a fish was detected, the Baiji would gently angle its beak downward, create suction, and swallow it whole. No violence, no struggle, just efficiency. It was known for its remarkable spatial memory. Individual dolphins memorized river bends, sandbars, and seasonal depth changes. In a way, the Yangtze lived inside the Baiji's mind. By nature, the Baiji was shy, docile, and curious. It showed little fear of humans, often swimming close to fishing boats. This trait would become fatal, because when danger finally came, the Baiji didn't run. It didn't know how. And as engines replaced oars, nets replaced hooks, and electricity entered the water, the river turned hostile. The Baiji never evolved for that world. And evolution doesn't forgive hesitation. Born too slowly for a world moving too fast. The Baiji Dolphin was never built for recovery. From the moment it evolved, its reproductive strategy was cautious, slow, and deliberate. A design meant for a stable, predictable river, not a rapidly industrializing nightmare. Reproduction in the Baiji was slow, painfully slow. Females reached sexual maturity only after 6 to 8 years, an eternity in evolutionary terms. When mating finally occurred, it was quiet, unobserved, undocumented. There were no dramatic displays, no aggressive competition, just two animals meeting briefly, in a river that had carried their ancestors for millions of years. After mating, the female carried her calf for approximately 10 to 11 months, nearly a full year. And after all that time, she produced only one single calf. No twins. No backup. One chance. That calf entered the world already at risk. The Yangtze was not gentle. Boat wakes slammed against fragile bodies. Polluted water entered developing lungs. Noise overwhelmed immature sonar systems. From birth, Baiji calves depended entirely on their mothers. Parental care was extremely high. Mothers nursed their young for over a year, sometimes closer to 2 years. During this time, the calf learned everything: how to interpret echoes, how to avoid sandbanks, how to locate fish, how to surface safely near boats. This learning period was not optional. Without it, survival was impossible. Young Baiji stayed close, often swimming directly beneath or beside their mothers, drafting through the water. This bond was intense and devastatingly fragile. If a mother died, the calf almost always followed. This meant population recovery was extremely difficult, even under ideal conditions. And conditions were never ideal. As adults began disappearing, breeding pairs became rare. As breeding pairs vanished, calves were never born. And once numbers dropped below a certain threshold, the species entered what scientists call the extinction vortex, a point where too few adults remain, genetic diversity collapses, reproduction becomes statistically impossible. The Baiji crossed that point quietly. No alarms, no headlines, just fewer sightings. And when numbers began to fall, there was no way back. Safe from nature, defenseless against man. For most of its existence, the Baiji dolphin lived in a world where nature itself posed little threat. In its ecosystem, the Baiji acted as an ecosystem balancer. By feeding on mid-sized fish, it prevented overpopulation and helped maintain healthy river dynamics. It was neither a dominant apex predator nor helpless prey. It existed in balance. Its natural enemies were almost non-existent. Large sharks occasionally entered the Yangtze estuary, but deep upriver, the Baiji faced no consistent predators. No wolves, no crocodiles, no competition capable of wiping it out. For millions of years, this balance held. The river provided. The Baiji endured. Then humans arrived. At first, the relationship was neutral. Traditional fishermen using small nets and wooden boats posed little threat. The Baiji often swam nearby, curious rather than afraid. Some fishermen even believed harming one would bring terrible luck. But beliefs erode faster than ecosystems. As China industrialized, humans stopped being just another species in the river. They became the dominant force. The Baiji now competed with humans. For food, for space, for silence. Fishing intensified. Nets grew larger, stronger, and more numerous. Gill nets, nearly invisible underwater, became death traps. Baiji dolphins swam directly into them, entangled by beaks and fins. Unable to surface, they drowned. Others were killed by rolling hooks. Massive multi-hook fishing lines dragged along the riverbed. Then came electric fishing, an illegal but widely used method that sent powerful electric currents through the water. Fish stunned instantly. So were dolphins. Some Baiji were electrocuted outright. Others were disoriented, lost sonar function temporarily, and drifted into boats or nets. And then there were ships. The Yangtze became one of the busiest waterways on Earth. Cargo ships, oil tankers, high-speed ferries. Their propellers struck dolphins without slowing. Their engines created constant underwater noise, a wall of sound that drowned out echolocation. Imagine trying to navigate blind in a hurricane of sound. That was the Baiji's reality. None of these threats were natural. None were unavoidable. But together, they formed something worse than predation. They formed systematic extermination. And the Baiji had no defense. It did not fight back. It did not flee upstream. It did not evolve quickly enough. It simply endured. Until endurance was no longer enough. When the river turned against its own, extinction does not usually arrive all at once. It arrives in layers. For the Baiji dolphin, the first layer was noise. Not sound. Noise. By the mid-20th century, the Yangtze River was no longer a living system. It was an industrial artery. Engines replaced silence. Steel replaced watercraft. Schedules replaced seasons. Cargo ships moved day and night. Their engines producing low-frequency noise that traveled for kilometers underwater. For an animal that lived by echolocation, this was catastrophic. The Baiji's sonar clicks were masked. Echoes returned distorted. Navigation became guesswork. Imagine losing your sense of sight. In a city where every street changes daily. That was the Baiji's world. And noise was only the beginning. Pollution, poison in slow motion. The Yangtze became a dumping ground. Factories lined its banks. Chemical plants, paper mills, refineries. Untreated waste flowed directly into the water. Heavy metals accumulated in fish. Pesticides settled into sediment. Oil films spread across the surface. Baiji dolphins absorbed these toxins slowly. Through food. Through skin. Through breath. Autopsies of recovered carcasses later revealed liver damage. Weakened immune systems. Reproductive abnormalities. Calves were stillborn. Pregnancies failed. No single pollutant killed them. But together, they ensured the next generation never arrived. Overfishing, starvation without hunger. Humans did not just compete with the Baiji. They entered the river. Industrial fishing stripped fish stocks faster than they could recover. Species the Baiji relied on vanished first. Not dramatically. Gradually. A few fewer fish each year. Then fewer still. Baiji dolphins had to swim farther. Search longer. Burn more energy. For a species already reproducing slowly, this mattered. Energy spent hunting. Was energy not spent reproducing? Starvation didn't come as hunger. It came as exhaustion. Physical trauma, death by collision. By the 1980s and 1990s, direct physical injuries surged. Baiji dolphins were found with shattered skulls, severed fins, deep propeller wounds. Ships didn't slow. They often never noticed. Unlike ocean dolphins, the Baiji could not leap clear. The river was too shallow. The traffic too dense. Every crossing was a gamble. Fragmentation, the river as a trap. Then came dams. Most notably, the Jezhuba Dam, completed in 1988. It cut the Yangtze in two. For the Baiji, this was disastrous. Populations were isolated. Migration routes vanished. Genetic exchange stopped. Upstream dolphins could not reach downstream mates. Small groups became smaller. And smaller populations collapsed faster. The river, once endless, became a series of cages. The final cruelty, awareness without action. By the time scientists sounded the alarm, the Baiji was already critically endangered. Warnings were clear. Reports were detailed. Solutions were known. But action lagged. Economic growth came first. Shipping lanes were non-negotiable. Fishing fed millions. And so protection remained theoretical. Paper laws. Ignored bans. Underfunded reserves. The Baiji didn't die because we didn't know. It died because knowing was inconvenient. An escape was impossible. Searching for a ghost. By the 1990s, the Baiji dolphin was no longer common. It was barely visible. Fishermen spoke of sightings in the past tense. Scientists struggled to confirm living individuals. Surveys turned up nothing. By 1997, estimates suggested fewer than 50 individuals remained. Possibly fewer. Then fewer still. The last confirmed sighting. In 2002, a solitary Baiji was sighted. In the lower Yangtze River near Tongling. In Anhui province. It surfaced briefly. Then disappeared. That was it. No photograph. No capture. No follow-up. Just memory. The 2006 expedition, hope on a deadline. In 2006, an international team of scientists launched the most extensive Baiji survey ever attempted. For 6 weeks. 2 research vessels traveled over 3,500 kilometers of river. They used visual surveys, hydrophones, sonar tracking. This was not a casual search. It was a last attempt. The river was divided into segments. Every kilometer examined. And the result was devastating. Nothing. No sightings. No sonar returns. No acoustic signatures. Not one. The declaration. Later that year, scientists made the announcement they had tried to avoid. The Baiji dolphin was declared functionally extinct. Not because a final death was witnessed, but because too few individuals remained to sustain a population. If any survived, they were doomed. Reproduction was impossible. The species had crossed the point of no return. An entire evolutionary lineage, millions of years old, ended within a single human lifetime. Quietly, without ceremony. The most tragic extinction of modern times. The Baiji became the first dolphin species driven to extinction by humans. Not by hunting. Not by climate catastrophe. But by neglect, noise, and indifference. It did not resist. It did not adapt quickly enough. It trusted the river. And the river betrayed it. Because we changed it. An entire species. Gone. At this point in the documentary, hope is gone. Blame is undeniable. Silence replaces tension. What remains is reckoning. Hard truths, policy failures, and the lie of too late. The most dangerous myth surrounding extinction is the belief that it is inevitable. That some species are simply meant to disappear. The Baiji dolphin proves that is a lie. Because yes, we could have saved them. Not hypothetically. Not theoretically. Practically. Logistically. Easily. By the time scientists raised the alarm in the 1970s, the Baiji population was already declining. But it was not doomed. Estimates suggest there were still several hundred individuals alive. Enough to recover. Enough to breed. Enough to survive. The solutions were clear. They always were. No intrasine protection laws. China passed wildlife protection laws in the 1980s, officially banning the killing of Baiji dolphins. On paper, it looked like progress. In reality, enforcement was weak. Illegal fishing methods continued openly. Electric fishing persisted. Gill nets remained everywhere. Laws existed. But the river was never truly protected. Waterwave habitat preservation. Scientists proposed protected river zones. Quiet stretches of the Yangtze where shipping would be restricted. Fishing banned. Industrial discharge controlled. Only one semi-protected reserve was created. One. And it was poorly enforced. Underfunded. And surrounded by industrial traffic. A sanctuary in name only. Captive breeding. By the 1990s, experts urged immediate captive breeding. Not as a luxury. As a last resort. Plans were drafted to move Baiji dolphins into oxbow lakes. Natural, quiet water bodies disconnected from the main river. Only one dolphin, named Chi-Chi, was ever successfully captured alive for conservation. He lived in captivity for over 20 years. He proved survival was possible. But Chi-Chi never bred. Because no mate was brought in time. By the time authorities acted seriously, there were simply no females left to find. Hourglass with flowing sand, the fatal delay. This is the part history rarely admits. The Baiji did not go extinct because humans didn't know. It went extinct because action was delayed. Responsibility was fragmented. Economic growth was prioritized. Extinction felt abstract. Each year, officials assumed there would be time next year. There wasn't. By the early 2000s, the Baiji population had fallen below recovery levels. Not zero, but effectively finished. Action came too late. Not because it was impossible, but because urgency never arrived. And the lesson is brutal. Knowing is not enough. Caring is not enough. Talking is not enough. Extinction does not wait for consensus. Silence as accusation. Today, the Yangtze River still flows. Cargo ships cut through its surface. Factories line its banks. Cities rise where wetlands once breathed. To an untrained eye, nothing looks wrong. But the river remembers. Where sonar once clicked, there is static. Where calves once followed their mothers, there is empty water. The Baiji dolphin is not gone because it failed to adapt. It is gone because we asked it to survive. A world that moved too fast, too loud, and too carelessly. There was no final body. No global broadcast. No moment when the world stopped. Just a survey boat in 2006. moving slowly through the Yangtze, listening, and hearing nothing. That silence was not natural. It was manufactured. It was engineered. By neglect. By delay. By indifference disguised as progress. Somewhere in the flow of that river, an absence remains. And it will remain. Until we understand one thing. Extinction is not history. It is policy. It is choice. And if we do not learn from the Baiji Dolphin, it won't be the last silence. One last question. If this species were still alive today, if the Yangtze still echoed with its voice, what would the world look like differently? And more importantly, which species is next?